What would you do if your neighbor declared your pool as hers, then sold tickets to strangers to use it? Because that's exactly what happened to me. Last Saturday, my HOA president, Victoria Harlow, stormed into my backyard with a clipboard and a smile that said, "Dictator in pearls." No warning, no consent, just a formal announcement. My private pool was now the official venue for a VIP community event. I refused. She posted flyers. I protested. She sold tickets. So I drained the pool. She called the cops. And that's when everything exploded, turning my quiet suburban life into a courtroom of public opinion live streams and HOA hellfire. But this story, it's not just about a pool. It's about boundaries, about justice, about saying no when someone thinks they own what's yours. Have you ever met your own Victoria? Comment below. Let's talk about it. My name is Tom. I'm 25 and I live with my younger brother Sam in a quiet suburb outside Portland. Our house isn't perfect. It's old, creaky in places, but it has a backyard with a pool. That pool saved Sam. After our parents passed, he spiraled. Anxiety, panic attacks. The water calms him. It's more than a luxury, it's a lifeline. Most mornings I skim the surface clean before he wakes up. It's our ritual. Peaceful. Predictable. Sacred. That peace shattered the moment I heard stilettos clicking on concrete. I looked up from the skimmer net, and there she was. Victoria Harlow, 28. HOA president. Self-declared queen of the cul-de-sac. Her smile was sharp. Her steps rehearsed. She held her clipboard like it was the Constitution. "Tom," she called, "you'll be thrilled. We've decided your pool is perfect for our VIP HOA event." Sam froze behind me, clutching his sketchbook like a shield. She didn't introduce herself, didn't ask questions. Victoria Harlow walked straight up to the cops, chin high, like she was walking a red carpet, and said, "That's him. He's trespassing." I stood up slowly, my boots grinding into the gravel, fists clenching without permission. "This is my land," I said. Voice steady. "I've owned it for 10 years. Victoria scoffed. "This lake falls under Crestview Heights watershed rights. Your camping is disturbing residents." The officer, Brian, an old high school buddy, looked uncomfortable, scratched the back of his neck like he used to when caught lying to teachers. Jake. "Look, we got a complaint," he muttered. "We need to sort this out." I pulled out the deed. Folded, weathered, and signed in ink that cost me every cent I had. Brian reached for it. Victoria snatched it. "These could be fake," she snapped. And just like that, the truth meant nothing. "Victoria," I said, voice level, "this is my property. You don't get to decide what happens here." She smiled wider, that terrifying customer service but murder smile. "Oh, Tom, you're so territorial. This isn't personal, it's community stewardship. We're all part of something bigger, right?" She held up a flyer, freshly printed. My pool, photographed without permission, was front and center, photoshopped palm trees and all. "Willow Creek Aquatic Oasis." She read aloud, beaming. "Elegant, exclusive. Starts at 2 p.m. Next Saturday. Dress code summer chic." I stared at the glossy paper. "You already printed this?" "Oh, of course. The invites went out this morning. I even booked a live DJ. Big turnout expected." She leaned closer. "Don't worry, restrooms are presumed accessible." Sam gasped beside me. My fists clenched. She wasn't asking, she was invading, and for the first time in a long while, I felt rage rise past reason. She was using our sanctuary, and calling it hers. Sam didn't say a word. He just stood there, eyes wide knuckles white around his sketchbook. Victoria's perfume lingered long after she left Sweet Synthetic Invasive. I watched her heels disappear through the gate like nothing had happened. But something had. She'd cracked something fragile. Not the rules, not even the property lines. She'd cracked peace. The peace I built, the one Sam clung to. We went back inside. Sam didn't draw that afternoon. He sat by the window staring out at the water, silent. I made coffee I didn't drink. The flyer sat on the kitchen table like a bomb with a timer. She was really going through with this. A woman with no deed, no decency, and too much confidence was planning a full-blown party in my home. What would she do if I said no? What would she do if I did something first? This wasn't our first run-in with Victoria Harlow. When Sam and I moved in 3 years ago, the HOA felt harmless weekend BBQs, Halloween contests, newsletter typos. No one read. Then came Victoria. Not elected, defaulted. No one else wanted the job. Her reign started small. She didn't like our mailbox. Said eggshell beige didn't match the approved beige. Left a typed letter taped to our door color swatches, threats of daily fines, and a warning about aesthetic disharmony. Sam nearly had a panic attack. I repainted. It looked identical. She came to inspect. Held the swatch like a forensic analyst. Acceptable, she sniffed. It wasn't about color, it was control, and now she wasn't inspecting paint. She was claiming our entire backyard, the place Sam called safe, the only place he could breathe. And this time, beige wouldn't fix it. The next morning, silence hung like static. Sam sat poolside, sketchbook closed, feet barely touching the water. He didn't look at me. "She can't really do that," he said. "Can she just take our pool?" His hands trembled slightly. He rubbed them together like trying to scrub away fear. "No," I said, "but she'll try." Because Victoria didn't follow rules. She rewrote them, then enforced them with a smile. People like that don't back off, they escalate. Around noon, I opened the door to find an envelope. Heavy stock paper. HOA seal. Lavender scented. Inside, a reservation confirmation. Lot 7. Our home was now listed as a premium amenity site. We were expected to maintain all facilities in optimal hygienic condition. For guests. Her guests. I looked out at Sam. His shoulders were tight. His safe place, already slipping. This wasn't a threat anymore. It was an invasion in motion. I read the letter twice. It wasn't a request. It was a command dressed up in HOA jargon and fake civility. Setup would begin at 10 a.m. Saturday. Event from 2 to 6. Presumed access to interior restroom facilities. Presumed. She presumed strangers would wander through my home, through Sam's space, his refuge, his therapy, all for a VIP soiree led by a woman who once fined an elderly neighbor for having audibly disruptive wind chimes. Sam found the letter on the table. His hands shook as he read it. That did it. This wasn't petty anymore. It wasn't about rules. It was about power. Victoria was weaponizing her position, dressing theft in bureaucracy. And people like her don't stop unless someone makes them. She'd declared war, and she didn't even know it yet, because now I had a plan. Victoria wasn't just a bad neighbor. She was a one-woman HOA regime. I'd seen her cite bylaws like scripture rewrite rules midweek and strong-arm board votes with two terrified yes-men, Janice, who always looked like she was bracing for impact, and Mr. Weller, who mostly just nodded. She didn't lead. She imposed. Last month, she banned Mrs. Green's rose trellis for architectural dissonance. The woman was 83. She cried. Victoria shrugged. Everything she touched became a rule. Everything she disliked became a fine. And now my pool had made the list. Because it was the nicest in the neighborhood. Because it was ours. And because telling me no wasn't something Victoria allowed. But, unlike mailbox paint or roses, this wasn't cosmetic. This was sacred ground. And I knew this time she wasn't testing limits. She was daring me to push back. So I would. But not with noise, with precision. The first thing I did was call the actual HOA management office, not Victoria's personal fiefdom. After 20 minutes of flute-hold music, Brenda answered. Voice flat, polite, utterly uninterested. I explained calmly how the president of our HOA had unilaterally claimed my backyard as a public venue. Brenda sighed. HOA boards have discretionary power, unless it violates deed restrictions. Translation, unless it's illegal, we're not touching it. She suggested I raise it at the next HOA meeting, in 3 weeks. The party was in 4 days. I hung up numb. The system wasn't broken, it was indifferent. Victoria wasn't winning because she was right. She was winning because no one stopped her. No cavalry was coming, no manager, no policy, no oversight. This was on me. She used bureaucracy like armor, but I had something better, a plan and nothing left to lose. By Tuesday, Victoria went public like she was launching a luxury brand. A full-color flyer appeared on the community bulletin board: sunsets, script fonts, water ripples, lies. Willow Creek's Aquatic Oasis. A VIP HOA event. Front and center, my pool. But photoshopped larger bluer surrounded by palms we didn't own. Sam found the flyer and brought it home like it was hazardous material. He didn't say a word, just laid it on the table like it might bite. I read it. Gourmet hors d'oeuvres, live music, ambiance by our premier host venue. Premier host, she made my backyard sound like a 5-star spa. There was no mention of me, just the Willow Creek HOA Victoria Harlow Hostess General. It wasn't just bold, it was brazen. She didn't cross the line. She set it on fire and danced on the ashes. Hank called that afternoon voice hushed like he'd stumbled into a crime scene. "Tom," he said, "you won't believe what I overheard at the clubhouse." I sat upright. She's charging for the party, non-refundable. Guaranteed ambiance. Her words. I went silent. She's already got 50 VIPs confirmed, he added. Plus guests, swag bags, catering. Then a pause. She said it's all prepaid. I looked at my backyard like it had turned into a trap. This wasn't just a HOA power trip anymore, it was a business transaction, held on my property, sold to strangers, without permission. And if it didn't happen, she'd owe people money, real money. This was fraud, wrapped in flowers and RSVP cards. My pulse quickened, but my mind cleared. She thought I wouldn't fight, she just gave me the best reason to start. That night Sam didn't speak, didn't draw, didn't even open the sketchbook. He just stared at the pool like it was already gone. His knuckles were white, his breathing uneven. I sat beside him and told him what Hank said. She was selling tickets, I said. Real ones, for real money, to strangers, into our home. He looked up, eyes wide and glassy. Then something shifted. "She's cheating people," he whispered, "using our pool to lie." His voice cracked. His hands trembled. One slipped off the chair and clutched mine. Tight. Not fear, not panic, fury. "I won't let her," he said. Simple. Final. It hit me. This wasn't about HOA drama. It was about him, his mind, his safety, his peace. She'd declared war on the wrong house. Because now, she wasn't just stealing water, she was waking something bigger. That night I turned my kitchen table into a war room. Deed, bylaws, plats, closing docs spread like a battlefield map under harsh kitchen light. Coffee in one hand, highlighter in the other. Rage in my chest. Line by line I hunted for leverage. Then I found it. Lot 7. Fully private, no shared easements. My pool, my fence, my fight. The bylaws were clear. HOA could regulate common space. Curb appeal, trash bins, not me. Victoria's event mandate. Not in any legal record. Just another paper crown she taped to her own ego. I looked outside. The pool shimmered in silence, mocking her plans, beckoning mine. If she wanted optimal conditions, I'd give her exactly that. But first I'd take everything away. The party, the water, the illusion. Because she could host all she wanted, but not in a pool that no longer existed. The plan had to be perfect. No drama, no shouting, just quiet, irreversible action. Step 1. Documentation. I drafted a formal letter addressed to the HOA board, polite, factual, and airtight. It stated that due to urgent owner-initiated maintenance, my pool would be unavailable until further notice. Step 2. Legal clarity. Attached were copies of my deed highlighted plat boundaries and the HOA's own master bylaws. Step 3. Logistics. I pulled the heavy-duty submersible pump from the shed, checked the hose's extension cords and drainage path. No city code violations. No excuses for them to retaliate. Step 4. Timing. I would start early Saturday morning, the exact day of the event. Let her bring 50 guests. Let her come with her influencers and DJs. All she'd find was a pool drained to the last drop, a legal notice on the gate, and a man who knew exactly where his property ended. And his patience, too. Friday night felt like the eve of battle. Sam was asleep early, finally relaxed, but I stayed up pacing, rehearsing every step. The forecast predicted sunshine. Perfect pool party weather. Perfect for the reveal. At 6:00 a.m., sharp, I stepped outside. Mug of coffee in hand, I surveyed my backyard like a general eyeing the battlefield. The water shimmered peacefully under the morning light, unaware it was about to vanish. I plugged in the pump. It hummed to life with a mechanical growl like a beast finally released. Water surged through the hose toward the storm drain gallons per minute, relentless. I posted the sign I'd made pool closed. Urgent, owner, maintenance. No trespassing. Violators will be prosecuted. Big, bold letters. Unmistakable. Then I sat in my lawn chair, coffee in hand, watching the water line sink inch by inch. Let the countdown begin. By 9:00 a.m., the shallow end was nearly empty, blue tiles exposed, glinting under the sun like polished teeth. The pump roared steadily, unapologetically. At 9:12, a silver Lexus screeched to a halt at the curb. She was early. Victoria Harlow emerged in full HOA regalia, linen pantsuit, clipboard in hand. Sunglasses that screamed self-importance. Janice trailed behind her, clutching a tablet like it was a shield. They marched up the driveway, heels clicking like war drums. Victoria paused when she saw me calmly seated in a chair beside a half-empty pool, sipping coffee like it was any other Saturday. Her eyes snapped to the sign, then to the water, or rather the lack of it. The smile vanished. "Tom," she barked, voice sharp. "What is this?" I stood slow and deliberate. "Maintenance," I said evenly. "Can't host a party in a broken pool, right?" Her nostrils flared. This was just the beginning. "You're sabotaging a community event," Victoria snapped, stepping closer. Her heels sank slightly into the lawn, but she didn't notice. Her eyes were locked on the water line, which had now fallen below the halfway mark. "You had no right to do this without board approval." I held up the letter. Crisp. Signed. Dated. "This is a legal notice of maintenance on private property. Sent this morning. Delivered conveniently by Janice." I nodded toward her and Janice flinched. Victoria's voice pitched higher. "You're in direct violation of the Event Priority Mandate Section C." "There's no Section C," I interrupted. "Not in the official bylaws." I pulled out the HOA master document and flipped to the relevant page. Highlighted. "Bulletproof. This isn't sabotage, Victoria. It's called upkeep." Her face reddened, then paled. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "The guests are coming. The board will hear about this." I smiled. "Oh, I'm counting on it." Victoria's breath caught. Then, with theatrical fury, she yanked out her phone. "I'm reporting this," she snapped. "You've vandalized HOA property, disrupted a sanctioned community event, and caused reputational harm." She dialed 911, not the non-emergency line. Actual emergency services. I couldn't believe it. Janice looked horrified, frozen in place like a malfunctioning assistant robot. Victoria paced the driveway. Voice shrill. "Yes, officers, I need immediate assistance. A homeowner has illegally drained a designated HOA resource and is threatening the integrity of our community event. Yes, the pool. Yes, it's empty, deliberately." I stood still, coffee in one hand, the deed in the other. My heart thumped once hard, but I stayed calm. She'd just escalated everything. This wasn't about power anymore. She'd made it about law. I looked over my shoulder at Sam, who had come to the window. I gave him a small nod. We were ready. Let them come. 15 minutes later, the sound of sirens broke through the morning air. 2 patrol cars turned onto our quiet streetlights, flashing not blaring, but enough to draw every curtain back. Neighbors peeked from porches and windows, coffee forgotten in hand. Hank stepped outside with his terrier Max and a bag of popcorn like he'd been waiting for this moment his whole life. Victoria practically leapt toward the officers. "Thank God," she cried, gesturing wildly at the pool. "This man, Tom Henderson, has vandalized HOA property. He drained the community pool to sabotage our official event." The officer, Miller, according to his badge, glanced at the empty basin, then at me. I stood calm, papers in hand. "Sir," he said, "is this your property?" "Yes, officer," I replied, handing over the deed. "All of it, including the hole where the water used to be." He raised an eyebrow. "Let's talk." Officer Miller examined the deed, flipping through the pages with measured focus. His partner, Officer Diaz, quietly interviewed Janice, who looked like she wanted to disappear into the hedges. Victoria hovered nearby, arms crossed tightly, her faux composure cracking. "This document shows the pool is located entirely within your private lot," Officer Miller said, handing it back to me. I nodded. "Exactly. And per the HOA's own master bylaws," I held up the binder open to a highlighted page. "There is no clause allowing the board to seize private property for events." Victoria lunged forward, waving her clipboard. "We implemented the event priority mandate." Miller barely glanced at it. "Ma'am, internal HOA guidelines don't override deeded property rights," he said evenly. The words hit like a gavel. Victoria's mouth opened, then shut. Her cheeks flushed deep red. The tide had shifted, and justice was starting to speak. Right then, the first wave of Victoria's VIPs arrived, sleek cars lining the curb, guests in linen and pastel sunglasses, gleaming phones in hand. They followed the sound of confrontation, drifting toward the gate with curious smiles, expecting champagne and music. Instead, they saw an empty pool, 2 police cruisers, and Victoria mid-meltdown. A woman in designer wedges stepped forward. "Excuse me," she said, squinting at me. "Is this the event?" Her tone carried the sharp edge of disappointment. Before I could answer, a man in a crisp blazer held up his phone. "This is the address on the ticket I paid for," he said, eyes narrowing. $100 for a luxury poolside gathering. Is this a joke?" His gaze turned to Victoria. She froze. Her clipboard dipped slightly. The crowd murmured. Confusion thickened into suspicion. And suddenly it wasn't just my truth being heard, it was theirs too. "Wait," the man in the blazer said, stepping closer to Officer Miller. "You're telling us this party isn't authorized, that this pool isn't even part of the HOA's property?" Miller nodded. "It's private property, sir. The owner did not give permission for any event here." Gasps rippled through the crowd like dropped glass. Phones went up, cameras clicked. Influencers began live streaming what had now become a social media train wreck. Victoria turned pale. Her clipboard now hung at her side like a dead limb. "You took our money," someone shouted. "This was a scam," another added. A woman in oversized sunglasses held up a printed flyer. This said Aquatic Oasis, not empty tile pit and lawsuit waiting to happen. Victoria opened her mouth to speak, then closed it again. Janice quietly slipped away. The party wasn't just canceled. It had imploded, and Victoria stood at the center of the crater. Officer Diaz stepped forward, her voice calm but unmistakably firm. "Ma'am," she said to Victoria, "did you charge admission for an event held on private property without the owner's consent?" Victoria hesitated, lips twitching. It was a donation-based RSVP. $100 per guest." The man in the blazer cut in. "I have the receipt." Diaz raised an eyebrow. That may constitute fraudulent misrepresentation, she said, pulling out her notepad. If multiple parties paid under false pretenses, you could be liable for civil action, possibly criminal, if intent to deceive is proven. Victoria's clipboard slipped from her fingers and hit the pavement with a hollow clack. The murmurs around us turned into open outrage. "You better start refunding people someone snapped, or I'm calling my attorney," Officer Miller added, "and falsely reporting vandalism to emergency services. That's misuse of 911. Victoria didn't speak. She simply stood there, unraveling in real time. By noon, the video had already hit social media. Someone had recorded everything from Victoria's rant to the police calmly dismantling her authority to the moment her precious clipboard hit the ground like a gavel of shame. The caption, "Karen tries to steal," neighbor's pool, gets drained literally. Within an hour, the clip was shared to a neighborhood Facebook group, then a viral subreddit. Comments poured in. She really thought the HOA meant her own authority. Plot twist of the year. Protect this man and his pool at all costs. Even Hank chimed in online. Victoria finally slipped on her own power trip. Meanwhile, guests demanded refunds. One woman called her bank mid-street to dispute the charge as fraud. Another handed out flyers about HOA reform. And Victoria. She left in silence, sunglasses on mouth set tight. But everyone saw it. The empire of petty power had crumbled. That Monday evening, an emergency HOA board meeting was called. Unprecedented, unscheduled, and completely packed. Neighbors filled every seat in the clubhouse. Some stood in the back. Others brought popcorn, literally. The flyer scandal had galvanized the entire community. Janice arrived alone, eyes downcast, and quietly submitted her resignation. No one stopped her. Victoria entered 5 minutes late. No clipboard, no entourage. She took one look at the crowd and hesitated. Then Hank stood up. "I motion for a vote of no confidence in Victoria Harlow as HOA president," he said, voice loud and clear, effective immediately. Applause erupted. People raised their hands faster than anyone could count. It wasn't a debate, it was a declaration. The petty tyrant had fallen. Victoria sat down slowly, stunned. No words, no fight left. Her power, once untouchable, had vanished, not with a bang, but with a unanimous vote and a roomful of relieved faces. In the weeks that followed, the HOA began to look different. The event priority mandate was officially struck from the records, unanimously repealed. Janice's seat remained empty, but no one rushed to fill it. For once, silence felt like progress. A new interim president was appointed, Mr. Santiago from Lot 3, a retired school principal with a calm voice and a deep respect for personal space. One of his first acts, revising the bylaw enforcement procedures to require community votes before any new rule could be implemented. No more midnight mandates, no more clipboards of doom. Victoria submitted a formal letter of resignation, brief, cold, and unsigned. Rumor said she moved out shortly after, though no one saw her go. Just a for sale sign quietly staked into her pristine lawn one morning. Power had changed hands, but more importantly, trust had returned. And peace finally meant something again. One quiet afternoon, a week after the vote, I found Sam sitting by the pool again this time. Sketchbook open, pencil moving. The water was back clear, and still the surface untouched. But something else had returned to peace. He didn't say much, he never did, but I saw it in the way his shoulders eased, the way his gaze no longer darted to the fence. He'd drawn the pool, but in the picture it wasn't empty. It was alive reflections, sunlight, quiet joy. "Looks better than real life," I said, sitting beside him. He smiled faintly. "No, it looks safe." That word hit deeper than I expected. Not beautiful, not perfect. Safe. The fight had never really been about HOA rules or bylaws. It was about protecting that feeling. And now, for the first time in a long while, It was ours again, undisturbed, earned, and whole. By the next weekend, something unexpected happened. Neighbors I barely knew began stopping by, not to complain or enforce, but to say thanks. Mrs. Green brought fresh-baked lemon bars. Hank installed a new lock on our gate free of charge. Even shy Mr. Patel from across the street offered to repaint our mailbox. The original beige this time, just because he missed it. The air felt different. Not lighter exactly, but honest, human, real. People started waving more, lingering in driveways to chat, not to gossip. Sam even invited a neighbor kid to sketch by the pool. They sat in silence, side by side. It was perfect. For the first time since moving in, I didn't feel like we were defending our home from something. We were living in it. Victoria had ruled with fear, but when she left, something stronger took her place. Community. In the end, this wasn't just about a drained pool, a ruined party, or one overreaching HOA president. It was about boundaries, physical, emotional, and legal. It was about the right to feel safe in your own home, the courage to say no when someone crosses the line, and the quiet strength it takes to stand your ground without losing your humanity. Because no clipboard, no title, no false rule gives anyone the right to invade what's yours. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet pump humming at sunrise. Sometimes it's a sketchbook reopened beside a pool. But justice arrives. Always. Have you ever faced your own version of Karen Share Your Story in the comments we're listening? Together, we can push back against abusive power. Like and subscribe if you believe in fairness, courage, and calling out the unjust. Thank you for watching. See you in the next story.